supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. I think everybody, when they get a dog, has a idealistic image that they're going to get a dog, especially if you get it from a puppy, and it's going to have no issues, it's going to be happy, life's going to be easy, it's going to be a walk in the park, quite literally. And then sometimes it doesn't quite go to plan, and I feel that a lot of people go, what did I do wrong? And more often than not, it's not anything you did. It's just circumstance and situation and life. And a lot of people then end up with what we call a reactive dog. What does that mean? So we've talked about reactivity before on the podcast, but I thought we'd do another little episode of what we actually do and how we help people with reactivity. Because reactivity, we tend to classically see it as dogs lunging and barking at other dogs or at people. That's the common. But it's really a dog having a reaction to something coming into their environment. And it's a big emotion, effectively. But how does it affect your life? Well, most people start to dread taking their dog for a walk, because the part of the day, the reason you get a dog is to go and have lovely walks. Like for this morning, I dropped my van off at the garage for its MOT, walked to work, sun shining. I haven't got a dog with me today, but I was like, lovely morning for a dog walk. That's why we get a dog, to join us on our walks in the countryside, to come to the pub with us, to come on holiday with us, to just be an addition to our family and enjoy life with them. And then when your dog becomes reactive, everything that you thought you were going to do with your dog isn't there anymore. So you're almost, in a way, kind of not getting what you thought you would. You're kind of grieving the life that you thought you would have with your dog, because you're like, I wish we could do these things together. You start to dread taking them out. You feel embarrassed when they react. You start to feel a bit judged by other people. You start to wonder, what did I do wrong? Why is my dog like this? What can I do to help them? You start to resent them a little bit, and I think that's quite normal. And you wish that you could do what you just wanted to do with them. Why can't they just get it right, So there's a lot of emotion that comes with a reactive dog. And sometimes it's there from the beginning. Often in puppy class, we can see which dog's going to need a little bit of help and may become reactive because they just have big emotions as puppies. Others are really placid, and then something happens. It's not always saying, from a puppy you're going to see what's going to happen, but sometimes we can kind of go, you're going to need a little bit more support in this area. Other puppies, you can't quite see it coming. Some are perfect angels in puppy classes. Like Fred, for example, was the easiest puppy I've ever had, then became a teenager. And reactivity set in. I was like, oh my goodness, wasn't expecting it, because you were so calm and chill to begin with. You don't know why or when or how it's going to happen. Let's talk about the reasons why. Why are dogs reactive? There are so many reasons. And unfortunately, the thing I always say is your dog can't tell us. If they could just say, this is what the issue is, we'd be like, okay, we can fix that. But obviously we have to play a bit of a guessing game, because we don't know what our dogs are feeling. We can make educated guesses. We can think about the situations they've been in, their history, the consequences to different actions, incidents they've had. We can kind of work it out. We can read their body language. We can kind of make almost like a facts and figures and make notes of them, and then see what correlates to go, I think it's this. But they can never actually just tell us, and if they could, it would make life so much easier, but they can't. So we're often left guessing and wondering, what does my dog actually want? Many people believe that their reactive dog is aggressive, because naturally it does. If you've got a dog that does your classic reactivity of lunging and barking, it does look really aggressive. Most people are then really surprised if they then find out actually their dog's just frustrated and they are displaying it this way, but they don't have any malice in them at all. There are lots of different reasons and ways for reactivity. So generally speaking, as I said, classic is lunging, barking, pulling on the lead. Some dogs lay down. Some dogs whine. It's very subtle, but some dogs whine. Some dogs will jump up. Some dogs have no reaction outside, but then have a reaction when they come home and have a lot of emotional release. Some dogs will chase things. Some dogs will tug on their lead. Some dogs lay down. There are so many things, but we tend to see the other things as being a little bit more socially acceptable, the barking and the lunging is the issue, because obviously it's big, people hear it, and it's obvious, and you can't hide from it. Whereas a dog laying down just looks a bit cute. Still the same emotions, just displayed differently. So the reasons dogs can be reactive, there are so many. We can't pinpoint it, but we do blame ourselves. But in a nutshell, we've done a podcast before on reactivity. So if this is a topic that interests you, read back on that one as well. I don't want to just repeat it because I'm looking at it from a slightly different viewpoint today. But, reasons, you've got DNA. Sometimes it's just their personality. It's who they are. We can't change their makeup. We can't change, it's like people always say, you have two kids, brought them up the same, they're completely different, because it's their personality, it's who they are. We can't change that with dogs, unfortunately. And obviously we don't know what they're going to be like. Sometimes it's parents that, we obviously see the mum dog, we rarely see the dad dog. We see a picture and we go, cool, he's handsome, but we don't know the personality. Sometimes it's to do with the stress that the mum is under when she's pregnant, or the stressful environment that puppies are in when they're in that first sort of 8 weeks with a breeder or wherever they are before you get them. We rescue puppies and we don't know their history. There's so many different things that are factors into it. Sometimes it's experience. Sometimes your puppy's quite chilled out, but then they have an experience. So say, for example, a scary incident happened, or they had an illness or an injury, they're then in pain. All of those things will be part of reactivity. And I personally think, and I say this, from my point of view, it's my opinion, it's not fact. I think 99% of dogs are reactive. It's just a different scale. I don't think I've met any dog who has never reacted. So if you think about it, think about it in a different lens. It's a dog having a big emotion to their environment, or in a change in their environment, something entering. So yes, some dogs are at the higher scale of reactivity, but all dogs are reactive. Who doesn't bark, when something jumps out of them? If you're walking along the street and something loud bangs, who doesn't have a reaction? Who gets excited when they see a dog? Most dogs do. They probably get excited and wag their tail. It's still a reaction. They're still having a reaction. It's just socially acceptable rather than being socially unacceptable. Many dogs will go out into the garden and chase birds and bark at them. It's still a reaction. You're reacting to something in your environment. It's just classed as being normal for dogs to chase birds, and maybe woof at a squirrel in the tree, but it's not normal to bark and lunge at other people. Why not? Who says? And we're left, and again, I think a lot of it is down to the culture clash of us bringing animals into our world, expecting them to live by human standards and expectations when they are dogs, and we have to kind of meet them in the middle a little bit. But that, again, is my personal preference, my personal opinion. I believe most dogs are reactive in some form. It's just a different scale. All three of my dogs are reactive, but at different scales. So again, I've talked about it previously, but just to recap, if this is your first episode, my eldest dog, Dave, is your classic frustrated greeter. So he loves life. He loves everybody, and he gets a little bit annoyed if people are a bit too far away, and he's like, hello, come see me. And obviously that comes out in wiggliness, barking, and a little bit of like bouncing on his lead. He's reactive, but it is, I just want to be your best mate. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing malice about him. He's just really friendly. If a dog just pops around the corner and there's no anticipation, he's not reactive in the slightest. He's like, oh, hello. That's nice. I've got to greet you straight away. There wasn't that I saw you and I can't get to you and I want to say hello. So if, say, we're walking around the two corners, and you get those corners when you're walking, and he just walks head on to another dog, he's like, wow, hi. And he's really polite, no frustrated greetiness at all, no reactivity. But if he sees them approaching from a distance, he's like, hello, do you want to be my friend? And that energy comes out. So it's reactivity, not aggression, reactivity. My middle dog, Rem, is reactive, but the lowest form possible. He doesn't do it as much now, but his classic reactivity was he laid down whenever he saw a dog enter his environment. And that could have been 100 meters away. That was when he was like a puppy. He's now coming up 6. We've worked very much on it. We've worked very heavily on it. And he still goes, oh, there's a dog. but he makes better choices and doesn't feel the need to lay down and sort of freeze and get stuck. He can overcome it. So he rarely lays down now. It's socially acceptable. And the people think he wants to play. I'm like, no, he's just a little bit apprehensive, actually. And rather than go in on the, wow, I'm going to, fight or flight, I'll just stop where I am and see what happens. So he's reactive. It's acceptable. Fred, the youngest dog, is wary. He's easily startled. So again, he is reactive in the sense that if something enters the environment, it makes him jump and he goes, oh, what was that? Woof, woof, woof. But if he's seen it once and sees it and it comes again, he's like, oh, I know it's there. Don't worry about it. So it's more of a startle reflex. And there is a little bit of frustrated greeter in there as well, because he just likes saying hello to other dogs, but gets a little bit excited about it. And he's a little bit wary if they've pinged into his environment. He needs time to get used to them. But again, the most polite dog in the world, when it actually comes to interacting, super duper polite. So they're all different and different reasons for the reactivity. And it's really important to know the reasons for why your dog is reactive. What is driving the behaviour? Because if we know what's driving the behaviour, then we are knowledge. We've got knowledge of the situation and what they're trying to achieve, and then we can help them. So today we're going to talk about not like what is reactivity, because we kind of just did that, but how do we actually help them? What do we do to help a reactive dog? Now, I would say at the moment, probably for the last couple of years, all of the clients we work with on a one-to-one basis, around 75%, 80% are reactivity. So we work with a lot of reactive dogs, all shapes and sizes. It's not always big dogs, it's little dogs, older dogs, younger dogs, working breeds, not working breeds, and every dog you can imagine. All of them are slightly different. No two are the same. No two cases are the same. But a common theme is that majority of those dogs we work with for reactivity are just frustrated and want to go and say hi. Now, the reason for that is that lead takes away choice, and therefore leads stop them getting what they want. So if dogs are, a common thing, my dog's off lead, they're really polite. They're so polite at daycare. They're so polite with a dog walker. There's no reactivity. But when I take them for a walk on the road and I'm on a lead with them and when they're on their own, they are reactive. One, they're in a group of dogs they know, so it's not scary. And two, lead doesn't play a factor if you're at daycare. So they have the choice to do what they want. Then when they're out, they're like, why can't I play with the dog? So there's a lot of misconceptions around what it actually means. So what do we do? How do we help a reactive dog? And that's what today's about. And obviously it might give you an idea of how to work through it. Obviously this is not a training guide. This is how you fix it. But these are the steps we go through to help a reactive family or help a reactive dog family. First of all, what we look at is the whole picture, because there's often other things that influence or play a part. It would be irresponsible of us just to literally treat reactivity. We look at the whole picture of a dog. Some dogs, they've already looked at all the other bits and pieces, and this is the only thing we need to work on. Others, we need to look at other bits and pieces. So first things first, why is it happening? Is it sudden? If it's a sudden thing, there's probably something that's happened in their world that we need to address. So for example, a lot of dogs become reactive when they're in pain. So having a health check, and I don't just mean let's pop to the vet and have, a quick feel over. Often pain is underlying. So again, look back at a previous episode, we've talked about recognizing pain in dogs. We've also talked to Jay, who is a chiropractor for dogs. Pain is different. It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be a big pain. Just having a tweak, a twinged muscle, or a little bit of a pelvis out of a line or something has a knock-on effect and can cause issue. So sometimes it is a muscle issue or just a, something really subtle. As we know, if we've got a little niggle, we feel a bit grumpy. So we look at that. We look at the whole picture. So what is their life like? What is their day like? Because sometimes reactivity is down to the fact that dogs aren't getting their needs met. If you've got a working line dog, so for example, my middle lab Rem is a working breed. He comes from working lines. He's got a lot of energy and he's got a lot of brains, and they need to be exercised. He needs 3 times the amount of exercise and stimulation as my other two put together. If his needs aren't met, then obviously, where do I put that energy? I can put it into reactivity. So making sure they're getting what they need in life. Sometimes that means we basically take a whole history of, or find out as much as we can about the dog's life. So the more people share with us, the better. We find out a lot about people, obviously all very confidential. But we find out a lot about their lifestyles, what they do, what order they do it in, how they do it, because we need to know these things to see, try and change that one thing, and that could be a massive change. And often it is the subtlest of little changes we look at in life that can make a big change. So, we will recommend talking to a canine nutritionist, because they may look at the diet and go, your dog's got a poorly gut. That's the issue here. Or it's not the issue, it's a factor that is causing it. Because we've got two ways of looking at it. We can just go, let's fix the problem. We can stop them being reactive. Or we can look at the underlying cause for the behaviour, and therefore we're taking away the root issue whilst we work on it. So we look at it from a 2 or 3, even 3-pronged approach. So looking at all those things, daily allowances, exercises, diet, are they getting enough breed outlets? Are they playing fetch too much? Do they bubble chase? Those kind of things that actually we think are exercise but actually are stressful. We look at how they manage their stress. Do they have enough stress relieving opportunities? Do they have an equal balance of these things throughout their life? So we look at their whole picture. We often make recommendations around things to tweak. We'll never tell you what to do, but we make suggestions. And if you're on board and try something, then sometimes it has the really big effect. So we look at that whole lifestyle first off. We then look at approach where we go, right, how much connection is there without all this stuff present? Because my view is, if your dog can't choose to engage with you in an empty field, how the hell are they going to do it when there's a dog around? They're not. They need a baseline skill set to fall back on. So we look at building connection skills. Now, I'm not talking about we have to have like perfect behavior, but can they just engage with you? Can they choose you? We look at having what I call get out of jail free cards almost. So something I can do to get me out of this situation if I need to. Obviously, then an element of reactivity is not that we avoid triggers, because we cannot avoid everything, but we can minimize. Because obviously practice, as we know, you can't say perfect anymore, but practice makes progress. So if your dog is able to practice, so rehearse a behavior, naturally it gets stronger because it's working, it's doing something, it's serving a purpose for them. So if every single time you go out on the same walk and your dog reacts at something or the same thing, and you keep doing that every day, they're getting better at the behavior. It becomes a habit and they do it without even thinking. If you simply change your walk and go somewhere where you, rather than seeing 20 dogs one after the other, you only see 1 or 2, naturally they practice the behavior less. They have more time to de-stress and to chill between dogs, and that can be a big factor. So we're not saying don't ever see a dog again, but we can minimize how much we see them, and we can have some form of control around the situations we put our dogs in. And it kind of goes back to that, we set them up for success. So we set them up to have situations where they can get it right, maybe not all the time, but portion of the time. Then you've obviously got situations where you're going to be stuck with another dog, you're going to have something happen. You need to have those skills to fall back on. So, can your dog focus on you when you ask them? Do you know how to manage the lead to get them out of that situation? Because what we don't want to do is just yank them away, but we can teach you skills that you can practice when you haven't got a dog around, so that it becomes natural for you and your dog. Your dog becomes familiar with the instruction or the change in lead that you're giving, and then reconnecting. So it's almost like a redirection, refocus cue. But the more we practice it, we don't need it, the more it's going to work when you're actually with a dog or faced with the dog in the uncertain times. Once we've obviously got these lifestyle stuff under wraps, changes in place, keeping diaries is really important because you can see little correlations that happen. Once we've got the foundations in place, we then look at gentle exposure to other dogs and teaching our dogs to make better choices, quite simply. If your dog is excited and they learn that dragging you over to another dog works and I get to say hello, of course they're going to learn that if I pull, I get there. So we can teach them that pulling doesn't work. Calmness enters you into this situation. If you're calm and rational, you're going to get closer to that dog to say hello to. If you don't want to say hello to the other dog, then the other, some dogs who are more scared and wary, reactive, if you give a signal that says no thank you, The other dog's going to respect you. So we're very fortunate that we have a large training space that is fully fenced, so we're in control of the environment. We create a controlled situation to practice exposure to dogs where it's going to go well and dogs will learn. Obviously, it's not real. It's not a real life environment, but it's practice. Think of anything you practice before you do it in the real world. Learning to drive. Who started their driving lessons in a car park going round and round trying to stay in the white lines? I did. You then practice parking in an empty car park. You don't on your first lesson go, let's go on the motorway. Let's see what happens. You don't. You learn the skills. You have to learn how the pedals work. You have to learn how to stay in the white lines. You have to learn to steer. You build your confidence up. And then you start on quiet roads, on 30-mile-an-hour roads. As you get better, then obviously you do more and more and more. And then eventually you are trusted to be out on the roads on your own without someone sitting next to you with jewels, pedals, etc. Now, reactivity is no different. We are teaching them skills. We're making sure they're ready to learn. And then we're creating that car park environment where we're practicing so that we've got a skill set. We know how it works. We know what to do. We know what we need to do, how we need to do it so that we can take it into the real world. So it does seem a little bit fake, but it's practicing skills so that we've got the skills to take us forward. So we create that controlled situation. We're really fortunate that we have a team of stooge dogs. So basically dogs that work with us, whether they are members who come to our training clubs every week. Sometimes they're people who've worked on reactivity. They've worked so hard on it, they then become the other side. They create a controlled distraction for the people we're working with. Their dog is there, not going to interact, makes good choices and helps the reactive dog that we're working with to make good choices. They're predictable. We know what's going to happen. It's like a boost of skill. Then, obviously, we work on reducing distance, increasing intensity, putting them in situations where we're adding in a little bit of stress because the world is not stress-free, but then we're teaching them how to manage it and how to move away before they explode. Once dogs have worked on this for a little while, and every dog's different. Some dogs need to work in that controlled environment for 3 or 4 sessions. Some it's only 1 or 2. Some it's 3 months. That's fine. Everyone is different and every approach we take is slightly different. We use lots of different methods depending on the dog that is with us and what they need. Once they're ready, we then take that into real world and we are testing it. But we're testing it in level 1, level 2, level 3 environments. So easy locations where we know that there's not going to be that many dogs. Dogs might be on lead. They're going to succeed. And then eventually it moves on to just normal walks. Obviously, day to day, we can then talk to people. We have communication and we talk to our clients every single day if they need it to help them on their day to day. We're, again, really fortunate that we have the facility that we offer a reactive dog class. So most of our one-to-one clients who start with reactivity and have worked through the controlled setting to build the skill set and are then succeeding, join our group reactive dog program. And that means that it's basically all people who've done the one-to-one training with us have all got the skills. We then put them into a control group situation where you wouldn't believe it, but we have 6, 7, 8 dogs eventually when they've progressed in one space, all reactive, but all as calm as cucumbers. It is amazing and it makes our job very worthwhile to see where people have been and see where people have got to. And again, of course, it's not real life. We know that, but think of it as you're practicing with the dual controls. You've got the situation. We're putting on the pressure. We're going down, the biggest A road in the town, but we've got the instructor sat next to us saying, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that. And that's what our controlled group setting is for. Then, obviously, you set off into the real world by yourself, but we're still here to support you if you need it. Now, generally speaking, isn't that the same with anything? You practice, you build skill before you do it. And in my hobbies now, I do crochet. I learnt to crochet when I was younger and I never really got on with it. I could only do a straight single crochet stitch because I didn't get granny squares at all. Can't do them. Couldn't do them. Then I left crochet for ages. And then I was thinking, what can I do that I can just sit in front of the telly? Doesn't take a lot of thought. I was like, I can do crochet. And I thought, I could never master a granny square. But I sat and watched a tutorial. I practiced with some really cheap wool. and just did a little whirl of it. And I was like, actually, this is really easy. But I practiced the skill with cheap wool, not on a big project, just tiny little squares, building up my confidence in it, and then went on to build a whole blanket. But you have to start with the tutorial. You have to start with the simple stuff. You start with the cheap things that aren't going to get ruined. You're not going to buy like £50 ball of wool to make it if you're going to F it up. So we do it with ourselves. We teach ourselves little snippets. We learn one stitch. Well, I learned one stitch to begin with in crochet. Then I was like, ooh, let's learn a new stitch. Let's learn a new stitch. And then you can build your skill set. We do that with hobbies all the time. Dogs can learn that with reactivity as well. It's hard in the real world to be able to break it down enough to start with one skill and know the guide and where to move to. And that's where working with a trainer can help you to break it down, guide you, provide the situations to succeed, to then progress on. So don't be afraid to ask for help with your reactive dog, because there is help out there. And as you guys know, if you're a listener, we are 100% no fear, no pain, no intimidation. That's how we work. So all of our methods are science-based, are ethical, look at our dog's emotional well-being, and are kind to dogs, because they're special, they need that. So there are obviously so many different ways of looking at it, but if you're struggling with your walks and you're finding it hard and it's becoming an issue, reach out to a trainer. They will be able to help you. A trainer, behaviourist, somebody local who has experience of working with reactive dogs, they will be able to help you. And think of it as the sooner you reach out, the better. So if, for example, you're in puppy class or an adolescent class and someone says, have you considered this course? It's probably because they can see that you need it, or your dog might need it in the future. As soon as you notice an issue, start working on it, because as we said earlier, practice makes perfect, or progress. Oh, I need to get used to these new sayings. The longer your dog becomes reactive, the more you start seeing it creep in, the sooner we need to work on it, because the longer you practice something, the more ingrained the habit, the harder it is to break. So work on these things as soon as you see them becoming an issue, or as soon as you notice them. And that way it will be quicker to fix and to not necessarily fix. We can't fix things. We're not, plumbers. But the sooner we can kind of get on top of it and stop it from getting worse and start reducing it. Some dogs are always reactive, no matter how much training you do, some dogs are always going to struggle, and that's okay. But the training and working with somebody teaches you the skills to help you manage it and not let it get it overwhelming, and to give you that emotional support that you need with a reactive dog, because it is emotional and it is hard and it does affect your daily life. So hopefully this has been a little bit useful in terms of how to help. Obviously, it's not going to fix it, but it gives you an idea of the stages you need to go through and the things you need to work on to help you with your reactive dog or start that journey. If it sparked any questions, if you've got any thoughts, anything you'd like to talk about, obviously, as I said, we work with a lot of reactive dogs in person at our venue. We can also support you online. Difficult to set up the controlled situations online, but we can try. So if you do have any questions, do reach out, and hopefully this has been useful, whether your dog is reactive or you've got a young puppy or an adolescent coming in and you're going, oh, this is interesting. I start seeing unwanted behaviours, which happens in adolescence. It's quite normal for puppies to be okay. And then adolescents, obviously emotions take over, and reactivity is emotions. So hopefully it's been useful. Any questions, give me a shout and I will talk to you again next week. Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.